Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're based. Hi everyone. Hi, hi. Hi Stan. Hi Jerome. Hi Oliver. Hi Yang. Hi Jaime. And hi Mathieu, our guest today.
Salut.
Salut. Okay, so it's 2 past 1 p.m. CET. So because I want to be mindful of time, we will start immediately the event. So my name is Raph. I am the new co-chair of the CVA Startup and Venture Working Group. So it has been around for about 3 to 4 years now. And we are together with Evgeny joining as a co-chairs with fresh ideas. And we are here to leverage what has been already built throughout those years. And speaking about having fresh ideas, this is exactly what we are intending to do today. So the name of the event is called VC Office Hours. And the idea is to introduce interaction because our big idea for this like a revamped working group is to try to strengthen the links between entrepreneurs and investors. And we believe that having such an event like a VC office hour is the best way, to have those two stakeholders on both sides of the table engage with each other and try to, as soon as possible, create interesting links. And what I mean by interesting is having some investors invest in entrepreneurs. So today I'm very pleased to have Mathieu Chanson, who is a founding partner at Very Early Ventures based in Zurich. It's a very early stage, as the name would say, Web3 investor. And so myself, the co-chair of this venture group, myself raising my Web3 fund, pre-seed Web3 fund, and I am also a community builder for Base in Switzerland. So Base is Coinbase's layer 2 on Ethereum. So very active in the space and in the country, but with I would say a bigger ambition than just Switzerland. And this is exactly what the Crypto Valley is about, Swiss roots and with global ambitions. So without further ado, I will just ask Mathieu to introduce himself. So with one question, actually, can you tell us what are the types of founders, teams, entrepreneurs that you are willing to back with very early? And what are the teams, if you want to illustrate that thesis, what are the teams that you've already backed since deploying from your fund? So the floor is yours, Mathieu, for about 1 to 2 minutes.
Great. Thanks so much, Raf, for having me here, and great to see more and rejuvenated activity from the Crypto Valley startup group. So to answer your questions around who we back and what kind of founders we like, and where we can collaborate best, let me give you a very short intro of myself and kind of the fund background story. So I got into crypto by doing a PhD at ETH Zurich in distributed systems. That was from 2016 till 2020. Just got lucky that I was kind of shoved into Ethereum in the very beginnings. I worked for Thread VCs doing tech DD on the side of the PhD. And then I joined MakerDAO. I led product efforts there, led a spin-off. It failed. I joined Cello, whom I knew because one of the venture funds I worked for during the PhD actually invested in their first round together with Andreessen. And then I eventually raised the fund together with two friends that I knew from PhD times in 2022. So we're live since 2 years now. We've invested in 18 companies. And that background is kind of relevant because so we are very technical, we are technical investors, and so we tend to like technical founders. It's not an exclusive. We've backed all kind of different types of people, but where we have a unique kind of angle is if people are technical, if they build technical stuff, because we understand that very well, maybe quicker than other people that are investing. And because also our network is centered around these types of products. So about half of the people that have invested in our fund are crypto founders, like people from the DeFi space in Europe mostly. Um, yeah, to give you some examples, like what we've backed. So, for example, we've invested in Predicate, which is kind of a new type of Oracle-based system to create prerequisites for transactions. So, define something that needs to be fulfilled before a transaction is executed. They're currently using that for compliance. And so on a complexity level, it's like something similar to an Oracle network. So that's something that we like a lot, or we've invested in a Fluid Key, which is building stealth addresses across EVM. So started very technical, but has now become more a kind of an on-chain neobank. Or we have also invested in Deepin. So I'm on the board of the Impossible Cloud Foundation. They're doing storage and compute, selling that to SMEs. So that's less technical on the crypto side because crypto is just used to coordinate the network. And the founders are also less technical. They're basically like in their 40s, great salespeople. But we were of the opinion that specifically in Deepin, the demand is often missing and that these guys could create demand. And that's what they've done. So they're now at over 4 million ARR 9 months after launch. So for Deepin, that's pretty good. So yeah, to sum
Mm.
up, pretty wide spectrum. We're looking bottom up, who is building something interesting, and then where can we help?
Okay, super. Thank you so much. So you're quite a technical investor. So this is exactly spot on for the three topics of the day because we wanted for this first iteration of the VC office hour to have three topics. So the first topic is about, I mean, it's not the first, but one of the three topics is tokenomics design and implementation. The third topic is interoperability in Web3. And the second and the third is a scalable Web3 infrastructure. So going forward in the next office hours, we will have only one topic so that we will maximize, the focus. But here we want to explore. So this is not a two-man show. People who are participating to this event, this is not a two-man show. So I'm here, to moderate and try to, orchestrate the discussion. But really, the floor is yours. So the idea is that you just raise your hand and you ask, to ask question to Mathieu. So we have the team helping you, get into, the right order when it comes to asking the question to Mathieu. And please, please, please ask all your burning questions. This is the big idea of today. And before doing so, please just say your name, maybe where you're based, if it is relevant, and what you are building, but very quickly, not a big intro, just so that Mathieu understands at a high level your background, and ask questions related to those three topics. So maybe before having one or two, immediate question from the attendants, I'd love to ask you, Mathieu, when it comes to interoperability in Web3, if it is really realistic as a goal, or is it like a wishful thinking, something that everyone would love at some point to achieve, but in reality, we will remain in fragmented systems. So is it realistic? Utopia, wishful thinking, and yeah, are we going to be stuck, in fragmented system as today? We see a lot of endeavors when it comes to get systems interoperate. It seems like it's not, achievable yet, or maybe it is already achievable. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think it depends a bit on the perspective, right? On what level will we have great interoperability or not? I think it is indispensable that from an end user's perspective, everything will be interoperable, right? If you think about you using the web, you just go to Chrome, you type in whatever you want, and you don't care if it's stored on AWS or Google Cloud or whatever. And this service, that service, like it just pops up, here it is, you can edit. And so on that level, it's kind of like everything, all these systems are interoperable. They deliver what you want to your surface, and you're kind of always in your same surface, namely your browser. And I think the same is happening in crypto. We don't really know which service will own the user in the end, right? Is it going to be wallets or like kind of DeFi super apps like Zerions or something else? Base and Coinbase, who own a lot of users. But somewhere they will congregate, and from there you will have to be able to access any given service that is interesting for you as an end user, no matter on which chain it is and how you pay for gas and so on. So just from a necessities perspective, I think interoperability on that level is needed. It's certainly not there yet, but we see many great teams working on this, like the basic ground level messaging layer is being built, by great teams like the layer zeros, the hyperlanes, sockets, and so on. And more we see applications that are using that to build cross chain apps. I think currently most of this is needed in the EVM space, right? Where, well, okay, on base you have quite a lot of usage being centered, but on many other chains there's also usage but not that much, and you want to tap into different types of chains, and it's cumbersome. If you speak more technically, right, as a developer, how easily can you deploy on different chains, and will like all these tools interoperate? And the basic vision with which we started in Web3, which was that all the apps are interoperable and all the APIs are open and you can just tap into whatever you want. I think on that level, it's going to be a bit more complex, right? As always in IT, you need lots of pipes to put things together. And eventually, somehow, it becomes interoperable, but it's kind of a burden on the individual developer. I guess that will remain the same in the blockchain space as well. Yeah, as investors, given what I just said, we invest in all of this because I think interoperability is a big topic. So we invest in more user-centric apps, which try to leverage the tech that exists and add a little bit to it to make easy, nice cross-chain experiences possible. But we also invest on a lower tech level into infrastructure, which enables that interoperability.
Okay, super. Thank you, Mathieu. So we started by talking about interoperability. So has anyone a burning question? Is anyone facing a challenge, a choice, or an opportunity when it comes to interoperability? Please raise your hand and take this opportunity to ask Mathieu a specific question about something that you are facing. But because we started by interoperability, it doesn't mean that you have to talk about interoperability. So you can talk about anything related to the three topics that we wanted to address today: scalable infrastructure and obviously tokenomics design. So please, who wants to start and who has a specific question to ask Mathieu to get his juice and his insight? Yes, Jaime, please go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jaime. I'm based on Switzerland. I'm founder, CEO of RewardMe, which we are trying to build this project in the XRPL network. And we're currently invested in Web3 and Metaverse based in the XRPL network, which is called the Expector. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They are the only project in XRPL that are actually building the metaverse, and there are many projects that are building inside the world. It's kind of like Decentraland and all that kind of stuff. And my question is, I feel like I'm getting invested in this ecosystem already, especially in the XRPL. And we're talking about interoperability. And then how can how do you call it? How can I feel good about like that security way that's in the future, like all metaverses will be interconnected, and because I feel like it all depends individually on how are these developers and how how smooth will be the connection will be, if that makes sense, right?
Thanks, Jaime.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't really know the XRP ecosystem, to be honest. So I've rarely seen people working on interoperability with that specific ecosystem, so I can't really talk too much about that. Generally, what I'm seeing is that Yeah, anywhere where there's really demand for interoperability, eventually somebody starts to build the rails to connect the different base layers. So we've certainly seen that around the Cosmos ecosystem and around connecting Solana and the whole EVM world. Again, XRP, I'm not an expert on. And ultimately, I think it just depends on kind of, well, two things. What are the needs of your users, right? Is the app that you're building enough for users to, have everything that they want? Or is it more a kind of a super composable thing where you don't really own the user and you're not the front end, but you need to attract flow from somewhere else? And then on the other hand, what are the capabilities of you as a developer and the tools that you need? Do you need interoperability for that on a lower level tech layer? Yeah, depends very much on the app.
Yeah, maybe one question to Jaime, actually. Why did you choose to explore that ecosystem, maybe instead of exploring another ecosystem that may be a bit more, I would say, already explored by other builders and also used by more users? What has led your choice?
Well, I started trading crypto in the beginning, like 7 years ago, and I got into the first top few cryptos, and XRP is one of them. And I started to read their white paper and all this. I would get familiar with different networks, and I believe in the network itself because I use Solana, Ethereum, and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of like, especially if you're a trader, you're trying to avoid fees and all that, you know. And like Ethereum network has costing me so much money, and some assets that I bought, especially NFTs back then, I can't even move them or transfer it or trying to because it just costs money. And then I tried XRPL, and I started with Salmon Wallet, and there's a lot of decentralized exchanges, which is flawless. I never had problems, and for the 6 years of being there in that network, we don't have any crashes, we don't have any hacks. Salmon is the only wallet that I know that they've never been hacked and all this kind of stuff. I'm not trying to put up XRP. I'm speaking on my own experience. So that's why I decided to, hey, get involved with the project because after knowing a lot, I realized there's a lot of people building in the network nowadays. And with these metaverse coming on top, and they're helping the ecosystem and welcome new projects and developers. And I'm coming from the business perspective of things. I'm not a developer, but I have a huge team that is actually working with us, which is make me feel confident that we could be on the space and do good with the business. So that's why I choose XRP in that case. Yeah, it's more like the fees and the stability of the network.
Understood. Thank you, Rami, for the clarification. So who's next? Who has a question to Mathieu? Could be either about interoperability or tokenomics or scaling infrastructure. So who wants to go next? Okay, so maybe I can ask you a question when it comes to tokenomics, Mathieu. Do you think that those tokenomics that have been kind of in place since the ICO craze and more recently with the recent hype that faded a bit about a year and a half ago when it comes to engaging community developers and early investors in a project, do you think that tokenomics that are prevailing at the moment are broken? And what could be one, two, three things that founders should avoid when designing, their token utility, so that they just, I would say, get to tokenomics 3.0, what could be, the insights and the learnings from, I would say, the broken tokenomics that we saw in the past 2, 3, 4 years that now founders will be able to avoid so that there is a better hygiene when it comes to tokenomics?
Yeah, so first question is tokenomics broken? And I wouldn't say simple yes, right? I don't think like all the tokens that are out there now are bad and they are down only because they were not well designed. And in the future, if we only design them in a right way, then they will be up to the right and green again. So I think currently, just in the market, retail demand is lacking. Simple as that. So that's why a lot of tokens are not up. We also have a lot more tokens than we've had previously. I'm not really a big fan of the view that, oh, because of that, tokens are down. Like we've always had tons of tokens and we have billions of, maybe not billions, but a lot of stocks as well. And they're, even though there are a lot, like they're not down only. I think it's very much case by case. So, you know, some tokens have clear utility, have a right to get earnings in some indirect way, and benefit from the underlying protocol develop. And many others don't really. And so if I look at the price currently, it's not based on the token utility, it's based on a lot of other factors. And so I also think changing the token utility doesn't really change the price action currently. For sure, what needs to change is how tokens are being launched. I mean, that's been widely discussed, right? So we have these high FTV, low float token launches that launch in the tens of billions, and it's very clear nobody can make money on top of that. And that has kind of killed retail demand. But that's not really the utility of the token. That's more how it is launched and how the supply is being managed. So I think if you're a founder, right, think about a reasonable launch price, also in terms of FTV. Think about reasonable inflation and how you leverage your token to grow your network. It needs to be sustainable in the long run. Users have learned that, you know, not just everything skyrockets just because it's a token. So that is for me the main learning. How you capture value, you need to capture value somehow, but how you can do that is a very case by case of what you're building and also of the current regulatory environment, which is extremely fluid at the moment, right? So I'm thinking around tokens in the kind of like a smiley curve. You know, we started with basically there were security tokens. It promised you the kind of like same rights as stock. If there's money being earned, you get it. But it started with products that never launched, so you never earned money. And then you had regulatory pressure and like, okay, only utility tokens, nothing wanted to be a security. And so the tokens are often valueless. And now we are going into a regulatory regime where you can attribute a lot more power to the token if you do it sensibly. And so the utility is clearly there, but well, you still need to define and build a product with actual usage. So the underlying token has value, and you need to think very hardly around different jurisdictions and what is possible where.
Thanks, Mathieu. Yes, Zerine, please. Can you unmute yourself or shall we do it for you? Okay.
No, I have done it. So thank you for the interesting insights. I have two questions, and my second one is obviously Matthew can answer, but also maybe Raphael, you can also, given your background in private banking. Raphael and I were colleagues.
Yeah, we met a long time ago.
Yeah, at one point in time at HSBC. So my first question is, you know, I'm also talking internationally in the US. As you mentioned, Matthew, regulation has become extremely fluid and people are confused given also the new administration. There are a lot of projects and people are talking about tokenomics and, you know, creating different tokens and investments. Are they securities? Are they not securities? Now people talk meme coins are not securities. I don't know how is the situation in Switzerland. Maybe I would be interested to get a bit more regulatory insight. And would it be okay for example, other jurisdictions to use tokens or create companies, for example, in jurisdictions like Switzerland? So that's my first question. And the second is, again, given the private banking grant, sometimes the clients ask these questions. Obviously, the more mature clients are very worried because they keep always hearing horror stories too. They are sometimes a bit older, and the typical private banker is not an expert on these areas. They're also a bit worried, but sometimes they're also interested. Some are very savvy, especially the younger generation. But if someone shows interest, obviously they're companies like Swissquote, they have products, structured products, or just simple funds, or very simple ways to get exposure. But is there a way for maybe even the bankers themselves to be a bit educated to find, smart and dependable ways to have exposures or even knowledge and talk about, these issues that are still somewhat new.
Yeah, sure. Mathieu, you want to go first for the question number 2, which was the first question asked?
Yeah, so number 2, I mean, yeah, there's tons of areas where you can get knowledge, right? I mean, depending on how much time you can dedicate to the area. Still, a lot of great discussions happen online and in public, right? On Twitter, on Discord, etc., or Telegram groups. However, if you want to go that route, I guess you have to be kind of 100% or 200% in to distinguish noise and real information. So that's what the professionals like Raph and me are doing. If you are a relationship manager or you have clients, you have a family office, and you can maybe dedicate 1% of your time to this,
Yes,
it needs
exactly.
to be highly filtered, right? It's also, if you deploy 1% of assets, you don't want to spend 5% of your time on it. And so there we see people investing in us like a fund to get that exposure, right? It's on the one hand side, monetary exposure, but it's also the information exposure, right? You have a guy, you can call him up and tell him, hey, what are the most important happenings last quarter? How is the market doing? Why is it down? Trump is like, great, but tokens are down. Why is this happening? So I have LPs calling me and asking these questions, and they do it maybe 3 times in 2 weeks because they have 3 meetings where they need good answers, and then they don't talk to me for like half a year. So it's kind of like on demand. Hey, give me the info. And so that's for sure like the most white glove service that you can imagine. Something in between is just networking in Switzerland. I mean, I don't know the scene in Geneva that well, but in Zurich there are a bunch of meetups happening. Build your network, even if you don't invest in very early ventures. If you know me, you can reach out, see me at a networking event, and ask me a few things. And you do that maybe once every 2 months, and you're at least kind of plugged into the markets to a certain extent.
Super. Thanks. Does it answer your question? What was again your first question? Is it something
my
that
first question was more
was about
also,
jurisdiction? Yeah,
yes,
right.
jurisdiction and regulation. For example, if someone creates a tokens and people invest, would they be registered by FINMA or regulated? This whole question in US, are they securities? Are they under SEC?
Yeah, we have a working group, a legal working group, from what I know, at the CVA. So maybe that's going to be a more suitable working group, if you have like very specific questions when it comes to regulation and legal things. So happy to do an introduction with that working
Yeah,
group.
would be very happy to,
Okay.
yes.
I think that will be more helpful for you.
Okay.
Thanks. So Jaime, you wanted to ask a question again? Please go ahead. And I want to be mindful of the time of everyone. So we are already halfway into the session. So we are still 30 minutes to go. So please take those 30 minutes as an opportunity to ask your burning question. And happy to have you again, Jaime, ask a question, please.
Yeah, first of all, I started a project and I contact MME. These are the crypto law firm here in Switzerland. And I was surprised with the fees that I'm facing currently to get the regulation, the licensing, because I'm leading towards, this is my Q1 of the project, so we're very early. But I want the ICO to happen very soon, before Q2 or before Q3. But the problem is like the fees, and like I think one lawyer told me like the fees for the lawyer itself will cost me 50,000 francs. Plus FINMA will be charging at least minimum of 10,000. So for us startups, it's like immediately like 60,000. In Switzerland, I know that we are one of the best, regulation here in Europe. So now I'm feeling like I'm being forced to look into Dubai to start my business there because due to the starting cost of such a project. So what can you, my question is, what do you advise startups that are dealing with this fees and all that?
Yeah, so I mean, TLDR from my view is yes, lawyers are extremely expensive and MME are probably the most expensive ones. However, they are also the most experienced ones. And so depending on what you're building, it might be worth paying up for that, right? And there are not that many alternative which play in the similar league. And if they do, it's kind of like also similar price, not exactly the same, but not 5x difference. So my approach is to if we talk with our founders that we invest in, right, to take a risk-based approach and say if you're very early and depending on what you build and your exposure to risk, legal risk is not that big, you can go for the beginning with like a less well-known law firm. It also depends a bit on the jurisdiction. So we invest in founders worldwide, mostly Europe and US. So if you're based in Switzerland and you work on something which is like, close to securities law, you want to have some trading venue or so, unfortunately, I think there is no way around from getting things right from the very beginning because simple errors in the beginning can cost you extremely dear later down the road. And so you just have to raise enough money to get that legal cost covered. Yeah, you wanted to ask a follow-up?
Yeah, I just want to cut there because, I started the purpose of the project is to serve as utility coin for the XRPL ledger, mainly for Web3 and Metaverse. So we are actually investing on digital asset. These are revenue generating assets in the Metaverse, which are producing quality NFTs that 3D and gamified ones. And we own like digital assets in the metaverse of XRPL, and then we're actually building like games in the future. So I don't think we're more facing the security things because we position ourselves as utility tokens. But I understand that every ICO needs to have license here in. But I was offered, I was told by MME lawyer that I could do some private sales of the coin. As long as I don't do any ICO and all that, it should be fine. And that's what I'm trying to do now to raise capital. And once I raise the capital, I was thinking to just pay the lawyer and all that, because at the end of the day, if I go to Dubai and all that, I'll be facing similar charges and all that. When it comes to taxes here, because I will still be based in Switzerland because my family is here.
Yeah. Thanks, Jaime, for the context. Has anyone a burning question about tokenomics? Could be also about interoperability. And the idea is also to talk about how to scale infrastructure, so scalable infrastructure. So maybe one question about that, Mathieu. Do you think there is, and if yes, what is one of the best or a few best, I would say, cost-effective ways for startups to prepare their infrastructure for like a very rapid user growth without over engineering, in the first place, their infrastructure?
Sorry, can you just repeat?
Yeah, I was willing to learn from you if early stage startups, founders can already prepare their infrastructure for very rapid growth without spending too much or without deploying too much energy in over engineering their infrastructure at day zero. Suddenly they could face like a skyrocketing exponential growth when it comes to users and be just left behind because they were not prepared. And sometimes this skyrocketing user growth may never happen, and they may have spent too much time, too much effort, too much energy in over engineering their infrastructure in the very beginning. So what could be the best trade-off, to prepare for a huge growth in user action without by staying nimble and by staying very focused and laser focused on getting through the best infrastructure that is applicable to the stage.
Yeah. So I mean,
my question will be longer than your answer, maybe.
Yeah, not necessarily. The answer is very complex, right? But I didn't get it because for me, it's not a blockchain specific question, right? It's a very generic question. Whenever you build IT, whenever you build probably any type of product, your V1 with which you go out, how much do you optimize that for being the base for your V10, which will support billions of users if you're the next Mark Zuckerberg, and how much you optimize for just ship fast, test your idea. And specifically in the blockchain area, what is a bit different is that smart contracts are hard to upgrade. So maybe the optimization is a bit more important. But again, like it's hard to give any reasonable answer to this. I think it depends a lot on what do you think is your biggest risk. So whenever I have a call with the founder, I ask them, hey, what do you think is the biggest risk that you're facing until you raise that round and then until you raise the next round? And you need to deleverage that risk. And if the biggest risk is, hey, does anybody want this product? Then don't think about millions of users. Like just build something and try to see if you get to that milestone where you've proven somebody wants the product, and you can raise the next round and essentially start from scratch. Like you raise a lot of money, you hire devs, tech problem solved. If that's not your biggest problem, if it's more like, can we make that efficient enough so that it works out, then, the trade-off are very different. But generally, it's very hard. How much do you change long-term focus versus short-term focus, speed versus long-term viability?
Yeah,
very case by case. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah, Yang, please go ahead. You have a question. I can unmute you if you don't manage to do it.
Got it. My name's Ian Grigg. I'm one of the earliest participants in the space. I started in 1995. My question, the other thing I should say is that I'm working with a trust-based approach to digital exchange. My question is related to the classical field of law and the way in which the crypto space has developed fairly quickly on since the launch of blockchain in a direction whereby legal processes have been pushed aside when those very legal processes are essential or useful, if you like, to keep out the bad actors. And more specifically, there are things like contracts. By that, I don't mean smart contracts, I mean legal contracts written on paper, which explain who the parties are, what you're going to do, and so forth. So in general, to what extent, this is my question, to what extent are you seeing the interest in bringing the classical law field into the domain of crypto in general?
I mean, for me, the two are very much linked already, right? Whatever you build on top of a blockchain is also covered by existing law and the interpretation thereof. I don't really see that blockchain applications like kind of completely rewrite how we think about laws and legal action and so on. So for me, it's really a bit like the internet or so. It's new tech. Maybe you will have certain types of new legislation to cover things that were not possible before that new tech existed. But I don't really see that kind of new automated law mechanisms are coming on chain or something like that. So that was a bit my feeling that your question was going in that direction. I'm not sure if I actually have covered it.
Yeah, and just maybe to reframe, thank you for the question, Yang, and the answer, Mathieu. Maybe to reframe a bit the talk today. So we have three topics. That's the idea of the VC office hours. So whenever you have a question that is slightly related to the topic or not too much related to the topics, happy to get your questions by email and then route them to a relevant guest, maybe not the guest we have today. So let's try to be focused on the topic. Sorry to mention that again, but that's the whole idea of the VC office hours. Don't take it, personally, Young, but just I just wanted to maybe to refocus a bit the discussion. Jaime, yes, sorry, you wanted to ask a question about tokenomics. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm currently deciding the supply of the coin that we're trying to create. So I don't want to go over like the billion supply because of we're not meme coin as utility. We're jumping between like a couple of 100 million into maybe like 100 million. So what are the advantage of having or disadvantage of having a huge amount of supply and a small amount of supply? And what about black hole type of tokenomics? Is there much better for startups to have limited supply or like just open so we can mint the token again?
Yeah, so regarding the launch and at what kind of valuation you should consider a launch. I mean, the advantage of launching lower is that price can go up, right? And so early buyers will be in the positive and they will be happy, and supporters. If you have a token that's like down only 50%, another 50%, which means 75%, etc., like it's kind of dead and very hard to recover from that. So better to start small and go up. So that's the advantage of starting small. The disadvantage of starting small is also if you start at 200M, I don't know where on the CoinMarketCap page you will launch, but it's like in the back, very much so in the back. And so how do you gather attention, right? How do people even notice that you exist? And that's a disadvantage. And another disadvantage is that I know that funds, professional investors that invest in the space, right? If they can buy your token at 200M, it becomes attractive for them to sell it at 800M. They have a 4x, great, return managed. And so you kind of limit how much you can go up in terms of absolute value. And if you can launch at 1 billion and you're more in the front of CoinGecko and your price doesn't drop and you have liquid funds that like actually buy into your token, and then maybe these will enable you to go to 3 billion from there, and you have more supply to cover your work, etc. But the big question is just, are you a project that can sustain that, right? And so it's kind of like judging the risk, right? What do you think is a reasonable price that you can sustain? Because if you cannot sustain it, you're in a very weak point. But if you start too low, that's you just didn't really maximize what you could get out of it.
Does that answer your question, Jaime? Seems like
He missed one about the supply cap and all that. Which one is better to have like black hole, meaning like you can't mint any more tokens or like
I don't think it makes too much of a difference these days. Like if you have a clear rule around how emissions work. Anyways, like the full cap, as we have seen in big examples like Polygon, it doesn't mean anything. It can be changed. So whether you have an open cap in the beginning and steady inflation, or you have a full cap and you just inflate the circulating supply to that full cap, I think people don't really care too much about these days, as long as like the rules around how everything happens are clear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mathieu. So has anyone a question about scalability, interoperability, tokenomics? Please go ahead. You can take this opportunity, the last 14 minutes maximum we have to ask burning questions to Mathieu. No one? Okay, Jaime, please, the event was for you.
Sorry. I mean, this is very important topic for me because I'm trying to finalize my tokenomics. So thank you. Well, if I decide for 100 million, for example, and I did some private sale, I'm currently selling the 30% going to 40% of the total supply. And allocation, maybe 15 to 20% will be on the liquidity pool. Like the team and founding will be holding so much. How do you? My approach is like I'm thinking to do something like a manual sell order, so to just control the supply going out, and whales like people who manipulate the price can be avoided to get more than 5% of the supply, because my investors, my tokenomics is actually my initial investors are not allowed to buy more than 3% of the coin. In that case, so we could really prevent people from holding that much. So far, I managed that. But how do you suggest me to handle the liquidity pool and the private the manual sell orders or stuff?
So we're going again into highly delicate legal areas. So I would suggest you talk to your lawyer about what you are allowed to do, because yeah, I can't really advise on that. Just that even if no matter what your token is, whether it is considered a security or not, there are laws around what you are allowed to do, and market manipulations exist in all types of different markets, and you should definitely try to avoid manipulating your own market, which can very much happen, right? That being said, you should also choose your market makers very carefully, choose people that you trust, and also try to supervise them, because what we often see is that also these bigger entities have their ways in how they ensure that they benefit maximally from the type of work that they deliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, we understand that you cannot give too specific details because we are entering some legal areas. So, but yeah, that was nice that you gave some insight still, Mathieu. So we have like 10 minutes to go maximum. More questions for Mathieu about tokenomics, interoperability, scalability, or maybe if no one has a question, we can just have the time, like 2-3 minutes for one or two people, just to say and to explain what they do, so that we just know who's behind those gray screens. I will pick, for instance, Edward. Maybe Edward, you want to say what you do? Just don't answer if you don't want to answer, because I don't want to put you involuntarily on the stage, let's say. But if you want to take this opportunity, just take it. Seems like you're off. Christophe, you opened your camera. Maybe you want to say what you do?
Okay, just very quickly. So I am Christophe Lebrun. I live in Geneva, and I am building a stablecoin protocol which is gold pegged, and yeah, a decentralized gold pegged stablecoin.
What's the name of the project?
CyberGold, but yes,
CyberWorld.
we haven't advertised it a lot so far.
And do you have some questions related to interoperability, scalability, and tokenomics?
Not really a precise question. I was interesting to listen to the conversation.
You are in the early innings of your project, seems like.
Yeah, we haven't done any.
So this is where you should have the most questions.
Yeah, actually, building the team is already a challenge. So
okay,
yeah.
That could be an idea for another VC office hours, how to build early stage team without a product running. Thank you, Christophe. Maybe Oliver, you unmuted yourself. You want to say one or two words about what you are building?
Yeah, of course. It's a good idea to, to take some people out of anonymity. What we are doing is actually, like your venture studio, supporting different kind of projects from the Web3 scene. And yeah, I really appreciate your initiative. I think that really makes sense to meet and to get together. And we at the first step, we always rate and assess projects in order to find out if they have a sound foundation. And with the best of those, we work together. That's what we do actually. Maybe Mathieu, we can have a follow up or quick chat how we could potentially collaborate.
Yeah, we will see afterwards how we make happen those potential connections between participants and the guests.
But it's really a good and nice initiative. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, Oliver. Okay. So without too much, overextending the talk, if we don't have more questions, maybe NN, you want to say what you do?
Yes, I'm sorry. I should switch my initials. I'm Rika Eichner. Hi, pleasure. Actually, I'm co-chair of the Enterprise Blockchain Working Group, and I'm so interested in to hear what the baseline questions is. My background is advisory for strategic management and ecosystem building, and I'm super interested to see where are the pain points, where are the overall demands of especially your working group and also of the participants. And we had one question. I wanted to remark that to Zarin. At the end of March, we have the CVA Web3 Banking Symposium. So maybe some of the questions you said about banking stuff and how that can be more implemented in traditional banking could be very relevant for you to go there. But I'm just more interested listening in and getting inspiration from you guys. And I love the format. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank you, Anan. Okay, so let's put a hard cap at 5 to 2 CET PM. And let's have Alexis maybe share a few words about what he does.
So, merci, Ralph. Hello, Mathieu. Nice to see you again after we met in Zurich at the SECA night of the VCs. So me, I'm advising as a specialist of capital raising companies in the technology space, among a few being in the Web3 space. And it's really how to structure certain processes, how to prepare materials and reach out to investors. I wanted to rebound one thing you said, Mathieu, a bit earlier on tokenomics specifically, where you talked about how it's launched and basically the fact that you can't really get retail to bite into it. You as a VC, do you still consider investing into newly launched tokens, or do you rather focus on traditional equity-like instruments?
So yeah, we have a mandate to invest into already launched tokens. I mean, like 80% of the private investments that we do, so we mainly invest at pre-seed, don't have tokens yet, but they will launch tokens later down the road. So in 80% of the cases, we expect the company that we invest in at pre-seed to launch a token later, just based on what type of product they are building. However, we have also reserved around 20% of the fund to buy in public markets. Why do we do that? Because depending a lot on where the market is at, we see that it is not very rational. And so we sometimes have information that, some company raised at, let's just say 100M, their last round before the token launched. And they have a runway for 3 years, and then the token launches, and it's a bad market environment, and it trades at 30 million or 50 million. So you can buy at like a 50% discount with no lockup to what institutional larger investors have bought at before. We see this pretty regularly. And if you strongly believe in the team and you know they're working on it, they're well funded, and you like the product and so on, it can make sense to invest in these types of tokens. It's highly risky. You need to do your DD. But especially for us as a fund, which is pretty small, and therefore can enter markets which are also not very liquid, this makes sense. And yeah, we still do that.
Super. Thank you so much for this question, Alexis, and the answer, Mathieu. Okay, so I guess we are up, unless there is one last question, but I don't want to force anyone to ask questions. Those questions should be real. So I guess we're good. So we will try to contact you after this event, participants, dear participants, to get your feedback, because we want to improve this format. We already see what could be improved, but it was very much enjoyable as a moment, in my opinion. So thank you so much, Mathieu, for the time, for your insights, and for the way you openly discussed with the audience. And thank you very much to the participants for the questions.
Quick suggestion. I don't know, maybe you want to keep it private, not recorded, so maybe people talk more openly. But
I mean,
also
if it is quite fast, please go ahead.
I know it wasn't a question. I was just saying maybe it's a very quick suggestion to say. I mean, unless you want to keep the sessions private, people talk more openly. Maybe some parts can be recorded, some answers, etc. So people you can share to your listserv. People can refer to it. You know, grow the network, spread the word, and its useful information would not be lost. It's just an idea.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, because this is what we want to do. We want to to increase interactions and engagement, and have more people get together and nurture this ecosystem.
And we can
so that's a good idea.
Yeah, listen
sure.
to this. You know, it was interesting. Whatever.
Superb. Yeah, thank you for the feedback, Zerin. Okay, so everyone is free to go. Thank you so much, Mathieu, again, and let's check together soon for the next VC Office Hour, which will happen in about, let's say, 3 to 5 weeks. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day, have a good afternoon, have a good morning. Bye, everyone.